The views expressed on this podcast are ours alone and do not reflect the views of our employers.
Evolution of evil.
I'd have the sleeping pill mixture already prepared. Person would drink it, fall asleep. That's when they would be strangled.
Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
Evil is not spurned. Evil is thought of as a spirit that needs help.
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
Evolution of evil.
Hello and welcome to Evolution of Evil, the podcast that delves into the dark side of humanity, from the most heinous of crimes to the minds of history's most notorious criminals. We explore weekly the depths of evil, uncovering its evolution over time and understanding the dark motivations behind it. We continue to look at the events from the past and the present to see how evil has adapted and changed over the centuries. Please remember to subscribe and rate this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the show on Twitter at Evolution of EVI2, as well as our personal accounts. I'm at Justin Yent, and he's at T Stevens 91. And our guest today, we have the First Lady of Evolution of Evil Fan Club, Amy, back. Amy, do you want to tell us what your Twitter handle is?
Yes, it is at AmyRD_24.
Perfect. TJ, catch us up. What's been going on?
So last week we did Carl Panzram from Everywhere But Nowhere in the early 1800s and early 1900s, and he did some pretty terrible things. Justin, again, dropping bombs on people with people we don't even know about that just do these absolutely horrific things. And this week, we've mentioned a few times that there's some documentaries I have a hard time watching all the way through, especially if it deals with kids, right? And so there's one called the Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. I've watched it once, and I will probably never watch it again because it's just, I can't believe people would do something like that. And this one's along those lines also. So, Amy, you picked Lori Daybell, a.k.a. Lori Vallow. What a story this woman has. She is the epitome of people I'd love to punch in the face. And what made you pick this, and what should we expect here?
Well, again, thank you all for having me. I really do appreciate you all letting me come on. I love this podcast. I love listening to these little shows, and I always end up sending like a huge paragraph to them after every episode.
Yes,
and like,
true.
This is what I think. This is awesome, whatever. But I love that kind of stuff. So honestly, TJ, I really think I heard of this. I think I really heard of this whenever in 2019 when the All Points Bulletin went out about the children being missing.
Yeah.
And so then, because of my love of crime, I was I was intrigued by that. And so then some of the other podcasts maybe that I listened to, or Discovery ID, some of those shows and stuff like that, you started seeing that once the children went missing and Lori would not tell anybody where they were, it's almost like the reporters, like that's when the story kind of began.
Yeah.
People really started looking into it and maybe putting some pieces together that were always out there, but were just floating in space. And so then they start putting together this puzzle because honestly, I mean, that question, just tell them where the kids are. Mm-hmm. And, like the fact that she wouldn't, I think that's what really just set that catalyst up for reporters, police, whoever being like normal people like us, like, well, what is she hiding? Why won't she just tell them where the kids are?
Right.
Just show them, I mean, that's all they were wanting. And so then people started looking into that, and then you just get this like, like, I mean, absolute intriguing story that has so many twists and turns. And um, even when I wrote it out, I'm still feeling like, I think, where does this thought go? Because something will jump over here. And I mean, and it's been I mean, at least 4 years. You think she just went to trial
Yes.
in 2023, which I know COVID obviously,
Hmm.
uh, push that back. He's not even going to go to trial until 2024. So, this is still just kind of an ongoing thing. And again, as you hear some of the court documents, and I will give credit to Court TV. Like I said, on some of the things that I may be talking about, East Iowa News was also East Idaho News was also a interest. Was someone that I looked at for different information. It's just it's truth is stranger than fiction. I mean, you
Yes.
could not write some of this stuff, I don't think. And um, so with all that being said, I'll go ahead and start. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
Well, before you start, I want to make sure that we make an important announcement of why today is special that we're recording.
Mm.
So our listeners don't know this, but they hopefully will be able to celebrate with you. But today, the day that the episode is airing, is the First Lady of Evolution of Evil's birthday. And so we felt it was important to celebrate this and give her the opportunity to join us on the air. And so we just want to wish you a very happy birthday and say thank you for always being a fan of ours. We're just as big, if not a bigger fan of yours uh, than you realize. So
Oh,
happy birthday, Amy.
thank you. I am huge about birthdays. Like, I love it. And I will be 47, or I am 47, I guess, when this drops. And
Yeah.
so knocking a lot closer to 50 than I think you all 40, but that's okay, right? It's okay.
It's okay.
But I very appreciate you all having me on for my birthday, because that's just a nice little nugget that the year 47 is going to be good. So it already starts off good by being on here with y'all.
Well, we should
Definitely.
also mention also before we get started here, like, oh, y'all just having her on, let her be on here because it's her birthday. Amy, you're also on another show. So what other show are you on?
Yes,
Before
I
we
am
start.
on the Talkin' Wrestling with Pondwater Dave.
Yes.
I'm on there with obviously Pondwater Dave Miller and Justin Davis. Um, we love talking wrestling, and we talk about independent wrestling, old school territories. We went over the Money in the Bank results. So we kind of just have all kinds of interests in there, and we just kind of talk about whatever we feel like it, I guess. And we have a great time. We usually record on Wednesdays. So anybody out there just kind of wants to, happens to be crime and wrestling fans, like actually the three of us are,
Yes.
you may enjoy it very much. We'd love to have you. And, we get our group going in the chats. They bring great points up when we go live, and we just have a really good time.
And her best slogan is she can be your best friend or your worst nightmare.
That's right.
It's your decision.
It
So
is your decision.
all right, Amy, take us away.
All right. So this is from the documentary on Netflix, 2022. It's called Sins of Our Mother. And so I really kind of tried to follow it as they were telling us the story. And again, though, you'll probably hear me interject and ask some questions. So Chad and Lori Daybell are at the center of this twisted story, which is really still hard to wrap my mind around. There are so many twists and turns, and honestly, as a mother, it's kind of hard for me to comprehend what they did. I do have a theory, and I will discuss it we'll all discuss it, but I'll let you know what I kind of think. So the series is 3 episodes, and so the first one I feel like is more of an introduction, and you're just trying to learn names and who people are and a little bit more about Lori. The second one goes into the the 5 months, I think, when the grandparents get involved and we're looking for the children.
Mhm.
And then the third is more of the aftermath of that 5 months. So that's kind of how the episodes seem to flow. So, uh, Lori, her maiden name is Cox, and she has two brothers, Adam and Alex, and then she has a younger sister named Summer. And their parents are Janice and Barry. They were all raised in the Latter day Saint faith. Now, full disclosure, I was born what they call cradle Catholic. I've been Catholic my whole entire life. My family, that's the faith that I've grown up in. I know very little about the Latter day Saints, and I did try to do some research through here. Um, but, I am no expert. Justin, TJ, I don't know if you have any knowledge of that religion at all.
So it's funny that you bring that up because early on, I think it was episode 8,
Mhm.
I did
Yes, you
Mark
did.
Hoffman from Murder Among the Mormons. So
Yes.
I go into great detail about the Mormon religion because it's relevant to the documents he was allegedly selling, and then what happened afterwards. So if you want to know more about the Mormon religion, go back to our previous episode about Mark Hoffman for Murder Among the Mormons. I go
Cool.
into
And
pretty big detail about it.
good deal. And anytime there through something relevant, please throw it in. I
Yeah.
did go to the Church of Latter Day Saints website,
Hmm.
to kind of get some information, and I'll tell you where. But again, anything you have, let me know. All right. So they were raised in the Latter Day Saints, and in the documentary, her parents, dad specifically, says that Lori was noted to be spiritually sensitive. Okay. So even at a young age, her family was acknowledging that she was um, that she was more sensitive to maybe the other things that people were not, whether it's in church or whatever. Uh, as a child, I don't remember them saying anything specific, but here in a little bit later, we'll talk about some things that God has told her to do. So this is my first little comment. I just said, I feel that her family, noting that she was spiritually sensitive, led to them being more casual about some of these behaviors that we see later that we deem as strange. So, um, the other thing I do want to say, um, I am by no means bashing anyone's thoughts or religions or anything like that. Um, but there are going to be things in here that are on the fringe. Even the Latter day Saints claim that to be on the fringe. So um, I just want, again, I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong or whatever. I'm just saying here's what it is. But that's my idea. That I don't think her parents really maybe thought some things were strange, maybe as much as a other family would, because they always thought she was already spiritually sensitive. Anyway, so she's been married a total of 5 times. Okay. So her first marriage was right out of high school. Her second marriage, she did have her son, Colby, who is very predominant in this um, series. Her third husband, his name was Joe Ryan. And this is who he had hit the daughter Tylee with, who is one of the children that ends up being missing at the end. It does seem that maybe Joe adopted Colby because Colby has the last name Ryan, but he definitely was not his biological son. So,
Yeah, so they talked about it. I guess his biological father was abusive, and so she left the biological father,
hmm
and so ultimately, she seems to have a pattern for falling for the bad boys. The mother said,
hmm yeah, yes.
"Yeah,
And I did say her third husband, which would have been Joe Ryan, the one she had Tylee with, had some anger and abuse issues, and she left him. So that was something that they did say in the documentary. So then she went on, and again, like I was said, Lori also quotes herself to be spiritually sensitive. She said that God told her that she was going to be on Wheel of Fortune, and she was on Wheel of Fortune. Um, so these are some of the things that she's claim, her being able to hear what God is saying. And again, I know God does talk to people. I do believe that. So I'm not again, I'm not trying to be condescending, but that is what that's an example of her spirituality and her beliefs. So then Lori met Charles Vallow, who is number 4, and they become a blended family. And in 2013, they adopt a little boy. His name is JJ. So JJ is autistic, and he is the son of Charles's nephew. Okay. And so Kay Woodcock, who you hear in the story as JJ's grandmother, is legit JJ's grandmother, but she is also Charles Vallow's sister. They were just Kay and her husband, and I don't know what's her husband's name, Larry. Kay and Larry, they were just worried because of their age and maybe some of his needs that they would not be able to take care of him. And so Charles and Lori agreed to adopt him. So that's kind of why you hear that Kay Woodcock is the grandmother. Um, and again, she's Charles's sister. So, and that makes and they are a huge part of JJ's life, and they're constantly visiting and Skyping and doing all this stuff. One thing I don't really think I put in my notes, but I do want to say, Charles and Lori were married, I think about 15 years. So, I mean, they had been married for a very, very long time. They had moved to Hawaii, they came back. So, I mean, they weren't just married for a couple of years. So, I think that's important. So, as time goes on, the church becomes more prominent in the Vallow family. Charles converts, or he starts going to the Latter day Saint church. Um, and then she becomes becoming on a podcast where she's discussing the church. She claims that she feels spirits, she hears voices, and she's been given missions. Okay. And again, I'm not saying that to mock her. I'm just letting you know what she believes is going on in her life.
Well,
So,
we should
I'm sorry.
clarify first. So,
Yes, sorry.
because this is an important distinction. First of all, the podcast she does, they play a clip of it in the documentary, and her and the host both talk like this while they do it. And if you ever listen to a podcast about religion that sounds like this, run. Second of all, the podcast she does that's based around their religion or their sect of it, or however you want to call it, it's very revolved around damnation and burning and the end. And again, I've never seen anything good come out of those type religions either. Anyone claiming that someone has made them a prophet and they've been told when the end is coming. I mean, we're all still here. They're 0 for however many at this point, so it's just keep an eye on that. You just take it with a grain of salt.
Well, and I don't know if it's here where they start talking about seeing people's auras and seeing the demons that live within them.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And that's one thing that they start writing down, like who they're friends with and family with, and what level demon they are, or if they're an angel.
Well, and I will say this, and this gets into the person who does that is Chad Daybell.
Yes.
Chad Daybell. And so I think, well, I'm not going to say it yet, but
yeah.
I mean, but no, but you're right. Like, and that's what I was getting ready to say. It says, she does not see Charles as her spiritual equal, and and her beliefs become very more extreme. Now, she claims to have a personal encounter with the angel Moroni. Moroni, thank you. I had no idea who that was. So I looked it up. I went to the Latter day Saints website. Moroni, right?
Moroni.
Moroni is the angel that Joseph Smith reported as having visited him on numerous occasions. So the angel is the guardian of the golden plates, the source from which Joseph Smith translated the Book of Mormons.
Yes.
So the angel instructed Joseph Smith where to find the golden plates. She's very, or the Moroni, right?
Mm-hmm.
Moroni
Yep.
is a very important figure in the theology of the Latter day Saint movement. Lori talks on her podcast that she's being constantly ministered by angels and they give her instructions on how to further the Father's work. So, this, like you were, with the extreme beliefs, and I guess it could really happen in all religions because um, are you, and you don't have to answer this. I know how TJ feels, but Justin, are you religious?
So I grew up in a Presbyterian high school and Methodist church. So
I think that all religions, the goal is to go to heaven or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know in the Bible, Jesus has said he's coming back. And I sat there was thinking, obviously that is something they teach in Catholic, in religion. But I don't think that I think about it like the extremists do. And so the fact that they are preparing themselves, again, that just kind of shows that they really think it's going to happen very, very soon, and they've been told this by the angel,
Mm-hmm.
people that have been administering to them, and so um, I think this kind of helps, hopefully, for people to kind of understand maybe what Lori Vallow thinks her life is about. It's about um, ministering and about furthering the Father's work, God.
yeah, so I just wanted to touch on this. So Moroni or Moroni, we
Moroni.
actually talked about in episode 8 as well.
Yes.
But back to her not seeing Charles as her spiritual equal. Her best friend, who was in the LDS church with her in Hawaii, she had shared that with her, and she was completely caught off guard. And so she had also shared some of the beliefs that she, was hearing the angel and everything else. And so while I think some of it from an outsider's perspective is okay, is that common in the church? We had interviews in this documentary that it's not as common as what you think.
No.
That this was just not as common as what you would think, and even the family to be thinking that was kind of rare. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that because even her best friend was questioning, is this true? What's going on here?
Right.
So,
And I will say, well, I'll say it 1 second. So, like I was saying, her beliefs are becoming more extreme. She's being talked to, ministered by very important angels. She begins focusing on the end of times and preparing. And she brings her brother Alex into the fold and also on the podcast. And they're starting to become a small group that has similar beliefs. So she met Chad Daybell at it's called Preparing a People meeting. And this is where they talk about the task of becoming ready for Jesus's second coming. And it says this in the Latter day Saints website. These meetings were not sanctioned by the Latter day Saint Church. They promoted fringe theological theories and even outright violations of the church teachings per the fairlatterdaysaints.org website. So, again, what they were doing and talking about was not, like you said, it was not common amongst all the Latter day Saints. It was even not sanctioned. I mean, it was enough extremism that they were saying this is not sanctioned some of it goes completely against, what our church teachings are. Um, so again, that's kind of an interesting little piece.
Well, it's funny too when you have these groups that focus on the end of times, and it's not just Mormonism; it's all of
Right.
them have a sect of it, and they always one of it is always dissolve your belongings and live a minimalist lifestyle. Which that's if you want to do that, that's fine.
Right.
But my thought has always been if Jesus if the end of times is coming and Jesus is going to come back, why does he care that you drive a Lexus? Like I've never understood that thought. I've never gotten that.
It's the material things that, yeah, I
Yeah.
get you, TJ, completely.
What, and I meant to look this up. Do you all remember there was a series of books that came out and Kirk Cameron starred in it? Do you know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about?
Yep.
Left
What is
Behind.
Left Behind? Thank you. I knew it was a very simple title and I could not remember because I was sitting there, and this will be something I talk about a little bit when we start talking a little bit more about Chad Daybell.
Mm-hmm.
He's a writer, he's a a publisher,
Yes.
and his books, one of them, and I kind of noted it. I'm sorry, it's out of order. I'm sorry. Um, he has a series called Standing in Holy Places. It's a 5-book series that he wrote that is about the second coming. And so, obviously from the Mormon point of view. And so, when I was like looking at that, I was sitting there thinking, I was like, they're Left Behind. That is a series of books that came out that kind of talk about the end of time, same as this. So I just thought that was interesting. It just says that they're looking to build the New Jerusalem in America. And so, like I said,
In Idaho.
yes, in Idaho. Well, in the book, I think, is the book, I will say this. I so wanted to read these books, but I just could not add money to
No.
to him at all. So
and you mentioned that he's a publisher.
Yes.
There's a very specific reason why he's a publisher. Because no one would publish his books. So he became a publisher.
Yes. And a lot of these books, and I think there's one lady in the documentary, and it escapes her name. She has dark hair. He helped publish some of her books, and she is also in that thought process of them.
But still called him out too.
Yes, she
is. So as much as she was in his thought process, she still challenged him.
And what's crazy is too, I can see this lady's face now that you bring her up in the documentary. I can see it, and she says stuff, and you're like, wow, like she's even farther away from reality than the other people. And that because she considered, I think she said she could, what did she say? She could see the future. I think
she saw visions. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, this lady's also batshit. But then she completely distances herself from Chad Daybell. It's fascinating to see.
Yes. When he starts talking about the light and dark, and he made it, that he's a prophet. And I mean, you're right. It is kind of interesting how, like you said, you're hearing her talk about these things, and she's definitely right there with them. But, what he's saying is definitely not. I don't know. I agree. That is something
when you
different.
got the tarot lady going, that's too far, man. Like that.
Yes, exactly. So, Chad Daybell. So again, that's where Lori goes to this. What did I call it? Preparing a people, and she meets Chad Daybell. He's a speaker there, and so Chad tells Lori that Lori and Chad, have been married multiple times in past lives and claim to have received a prophecy about meeting an extraordinary woman today that will change your life forever.
If I knew that pickup line worked, I'm telling you, I'd be married several times by now.
Well, and this is what I put in my notes, and this is where I'll kind of start explaining myself a little bit. I obviously call that bullshit.
Of course.
Obviously. This is where I start thinking Chad Daybell takes advantage of Lori Vallow. Okay.
Yes.
And, you know, and I, and I'll keep talking about it more, but I truly do believe that you've got this beautiful woman in all accounts,
Mm-hmm.
and she is beyond fascinated with you, and she thinks you hung the moon. And all of a sudden, you're going to tell her, who obviously is very much into, spiritual sensitivity, I received a prophecy today that I was going to meet you, and we've been married. So again, I just kind of thought, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but let's just notate for the audience who probably has not seen Lori and seen Chad, and I'm
Oh
not
yes,
trying
yes,
to
yes.
downplay anybody, but Lori was a beauty pageant beauty queen,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so,
I legit was in a beauty pageant. So
yes,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Chad was probably run of the mill, normal Joe Schmo.
Oh,
Probably would,
he's a fatty.
as a fellow fatty, I was probably not going to mention the fact that he was a thickums.
No, but here's the difference, right? You have distinct head and neck and
Yes.
chin. His whole head and neck is just like it's like a noodle. It's just like one continuous piece. There's no definition. It's just like a thumb on the top of his shoulders. It's bizarre.
You normally would not put these two together is really what I'm saying. So for them to have something in common, I definitely see the spirituality on there. But then to go further and say, hey, we were married in several different lives before this, and we were destined to meet today, and
Exactly.
you are destined to be my partner in this lifetime. Now, granted, she's married, right?
Yes.
And so is he. Oh yes. You are right. I think that is called marrying up, right? Like
Oh.
that is what you would say. He was nothing spectacular. She was beautiful. Um and I think that definitely stroked his ego a little bit, and again, we'll go on more and more through this, but Chad was married.
Yes.
Um
Yeah, up here in Indiana, we call that the Reggie Roby. And if you don't know what that is, Reggie Roby was a punter for the Miami Dolphins who was widely known for outkicking his coverage. So up here we call it the Reggie Roby.
I got you.
But as they would say on the podcast, go ahead, Amy. Tell us a little bit more.
Thank you. So, like I said, Chad Daybell had a wife. Her name was Tammy, and they had 5 children. They had been married 29 years. Okay. So, and then I just kind of put, he wrote novels, he presented at the conference, and he published similar books from similar Latter day Saints thinking people. He thought that his town, Rexburg, Idaho, dang, quit saying that, Idaho, was to become the new Jerusalem at the end of days, and that he would be leading. So family and friends stated that Lori really changed after meeting Chad. She began thinking she was a superior being and knew things that other people did not know. She began arguing with her husband, Charles. Charles was stating that she's crazy, she's talking crazy. The people got involved, the police got involved a few times because she basically kicked him out of the house. She claimed that she could murder him if need be. Lori also started telling Charles that she believed he was an evil spirit named Ned. So she was saying that Charles Vallow was no longer alive, that Ned had taken over, an evil spirit named Ned had taken over Charles's body. So Charles feared, he's hearing all this and he's fearing for his children's lives, he's fearing for his life. She does seem, so there is a scene that Charles kind of, I feel like the police really did not take him seriously at all.
No, they didn't. No.
In his defense, she made him look crazy.
Exactly.
So she actually moved his car from the airport, had her brother move it, to where he looked like he was absolutely crazy when he showed up at the house and wanted police there.
And I also noted that in the notes, I was sitting there thinking, Lori did not tell the police that she's a mythical being or anything like. She made up a story that she had caught him cheating, and so in the police's eyes, that was. I mean, again, if it's the truth, then why are you afraid to say it to the police, you know? And so, again, I felt she can be very manipulative, obviously, as needed. But I definitely, you know what? I would not be surprised if the police, they're seeing a pretty girl with her friend was there and, and they're talking about how he stole her purse and just he got caught cheating. And so, you know,
She
I
had
don't really.
actually
Oh, go ahead. I'm
she had
sorry.
actually told Tylee about it too.
Yeah.
And so Tylee was her witness at the time, even though what she had told Tylee was a complete lie as well.
Exactly.
So Tylee helped the police kind of believe it, which I think led them to take Lori's side to it, which she
Right.
knew what she was doing.
Exactly. So she is definite. So when I say I think Chad is a huge instigator in this, I by no means let Lori off the hook. She's
Right.
also very manipulative because, again, she did not tell the police that she's a mythical being and all this stuff. She lied and said she caught him cheating. So I put in my notes, like, I really do think, obviously, Charles is very much still in love with her, and he's just very hurt by all of this. Like, I think any relationship could see that where someone who's going so extreme, like I said, they were married for like 15 years. So it
Yeah.
wasn't just, you know, oh, we've been married 6 months and this is a whole new part of that I see. Um, he wants her to stop being crazy. He wants her to just, return to the person that he loves. They have JJ, but he loves Tylee. He loves Colby. He's, in all accounts, he was at Colby's wedding, and like he's a very supportive stepdad. Um, so he continues to try to interact with her and try to get her to realize that she's talking crazy and and come back to her family and be like they were before all this started.
Are we going to come back to Colby's wedding? Because that's also a very important thing that we need to discuss.
If you want to, go ahead because I know what you're going to say. I don't think I wrote it, but go ahead.
At Colby's wedding, now mind you, Colby ended up going to college at Purdue, Boiler Up, here in Indiana, and when he became married, which is his wife is also in the documentary. I don't think she says too much though. I think she's just kind of there. But Colby says that when he got married, that's when he started to notice the change. That he felt his mother was getting upset because she was no longer the woman in his life, and was never really super kind to his wife. So that's all. And mind you, all of these things are happening around the same time. Chad's in the picture by the time the wedding happens. Lori and her husband are starting to have their issues, and now this marriage also. So all of these things are coming to a head at the same time.
And the other thing too about Colby's wedding, Tylee was not there.
Right, you're right. Yes, I forgot about that part. Yeah.
And again, I think that's probably Lori's just pushing her control. She said, "Oh, Tylee's at a ski trip or I can't something."
She did that to punish him.
Yes.
Yes.
And again, this wedding, it wasn't like a shotgun wedding. This did not look like it had been thrown together for the weekend. Like
Right.
Tylee already had plans. I mean, these are some stunning wedding pictures. And again, you're right. She did that to punish Colby because he's getting married to this girl and he's maybe not, like you said, not the woman in his life anymore. There are so many avenues to this story. I highly encourage you. I can't tell you how many times I've watched this documentary and picking up other little things because you just can't take it all in at one time, I don't think. Okay. So so this is something I think is interesting. Charles tries to talk to Lori's family. Like but they don't really want. It doesn't seem like they really want to get involved, or they're not helping, or whatever. And I don't know. I don't know. I understand that because I know, like, I don't feel like my parents. I mean, obviously they're going to be supportive of me, but you also don't want everybody to know your business, kind of.
Right.
Like
Yes.
when you're married, you're. So I don't really know what to think about that. But I mean, if
So
so, I haven't. Oh,
her
I'm sorry.
parents didn't believe him because she kept feeding them lies, saying that Charles was going to talk bad about her.
Right,
Her
right.
brother Adam did believe him, and
Yes,
he was going to start staging an intervention.
yes.
Yes, and that's
Which
when
I was just going to say, it's kind of interesting because you're right. She's telling her mom and dad this, but yet all you had to do is go listen to her podcast and know what Charles was saying. I mean, you can't sit there and say he's just making all that up, because you have a podcast where you're talking about these things that Charles is, I mean, you're talking about the end of times, and I mean, and that spirits are talking to you and that kind of stuff. So I don't know.
yeah,
Oh,
I really think that Adam was really trying to get there to help with the intervention and everything.
Yeah.
And
yes, and
that's
Charles was
yeah,
definitely talking to him because, like you
yep,
said, he was at least someone that was listening, that was like, yeah, she really is gone off a different level than we've ever seen before. So,
yeah. And right
uh,
before he was able to stage that intervention, Amy, what happened?
July, picture it. No, July 2019, it finally comes to a head. Charles Vallow is shot and killed by Lori's brother, Alex. Alex claims that they got into an altercation and that Alex shot Charles in self defense. So, as I was kind of saying, there is like this 5 month period where things really kind of start picking up in this story. So, this is kind of where we start. I call it Act Two. Um, so, again, Lori, this is what blows me away. Lori tells multiple people different reasons why Charles has passed away. Charles has children from a previous marriage, and she texts them. They're older, they're, in their 20s or whatever. She texts them like, "Hey, your dad is dead. I'll let you know more when the coroner," like, she acts like he's got to have an autopsy, and then doesn't text them back. And they're just like, imagine getting that from a text message. So if your stepmother texts you, "Oh, your dad's dead. I'll let you know I'll let you know funeral arrangements," and that's it. And of course, they're frantically texting, they're calling, they're trying to figure out what in the world happened. Um, so like I said, she tells multiple stories on what happened. Um, I'm trying to read my notes here. Um, she did not act like, so obviously the police are called because, like I said, this is a self defense thing. Charles was coming over to the house to take JJ to school. So even though they were, he was he living in Arizona? I feel like he was not
They were
around.
separated. Yep.
Yes, they were separated. And he was coming to take JJ to school. And so somehow this all turned into an altercation. Lori and Tylee left with JJ, I guess with JJ, or was he still in the
Hmm.
house? Okay. To take him to school. And then they came back and the police were already there. And she was just really like, the police had a body cam on. And so you get to see a little glimpse of just again. So, my brother shot my husband, or, it was just, I've only been here for 3 weeks. He's asking her questions and just kind of trying to figure out what happened. Um, Alex claims that Charles hit him with a bat. And apparently that was, at least Tylee said she saw a bat. I don't know if she ever did. She say she saw Alex hit, or Charles hit Alex, or did she just see a bat? Because Tylee's actually the one who introduced the bat, quote, in the scenario, according to Lori, because Charles and Alex were like going at it. And I guess the idea was that Tylee was going to defend Alex and hit Charles with a bat. And then that left the bat in play. Charles hit Alex with the bat. He went in his room and got a gun. Is that right? I know. Isn't it just like crazy? Go ahead.
I think the most important part is, so not only did the body cam show that she had no remorse, but not at one point did she ask, is he okay?
Right.
Is he alive? She didn't ask anything.
No.
She already knew what had happened.
Exactly. And honestly, they just kind of let it go. I mean, it was just kind of the only reason why any of that came up was because of what the story ends up being later. So, like, it was like, okay, self defense, and they all moved on. So, I mean, that wasn't even a thing. A text message after Charles was killed, again, she told the school that he had killed himself. You know what I'm saying? So, like, anything for sympathy, I guess, for her. Like, you know, she told some people he had a heart attack. And then, like I said, I don't even know if she told the stepkids anything, just that he died. Told the school that he had killed himself.
Consistency was not her strong point.
No. And again, I think that's yes, that's very true. And again, just to so blatantly lie to multiple different people, like your mom and dad can't go listen to your podcast and know that you are saying these things, whatever. But again, at this point, she's thinking she's a supreme being. So I mean, what does it matter what I tell you mortals, I guess. I don't know. So a text message after Charles died between Lori and Chad, okay? They're discussing Charles's life insurance policy. But Charles had changed his life insurance policy to make she is not the beneficiary anymore. The beneficiary is JJ's grandmother, Kay. So, Lori, this is in quotes. This is what it says. So, I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March. So, it was probably Ned before we got rid of him. They can't tell me, of course, but it is done. I still get the $4,000 a month from Social Security. This is what Chad says. I love you. This is terrible, but it is probably another step in bringing down I can't say the word. It's the Gaddingtons, Gadianton, okay? Especially Brandon. So then you're just like, okay, there's lots of words in there that it's like, what does that even mean? So I don't know if this is where I kind of wonder about her being manipulated by Chad in the sense that she wrote in this email, it must have been Ned. And I don't know if she's doing that because, well, just in case these emails or these text messages are ever read by the police. I don't know if she thinks like that far ahead, but like she's writing in the sense that she truly does believe that Chad was taken over by an evil spirit named Ned. Does that make sense?
Also, I cannot tell you how much it tickles me that we have this grandiose end of times religion, and we brought up names like the Moroni, and we have all these grand characters in the world of scripture, and his name is Ned.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I know. Yeah, really. So that part to me is like, I just don't know. Obviously, I can't be in Lori's brain, but I just don't even she's writing like she truly believes Charles was taken over by an evil spirit. This is not just something she's saying. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like The Walking Dead too, because the way that it develops, it's almost like their plan is to kill those that are the Walking Dead.
Yes.
Like Ned.
Yes. Yes.
and those that are like it. So
Yes,
yeah.
definitely. So I looked up Gaddington's. I promise, I know I'm not
I
saying
think
it
that's
right.
pronounced right.
And Brandon, because you're like, okay, what is this? So, according to the Book of Mormon, they were a secret criminal organization in ancient America. So, they were a people that were opposite of the group that Chad and Lori have. So, I guess um, they were trying to like free all the evil spirits and do good, and maybe this secret organization was trying to keep the second coming from happening. That's what how I read it, and I apologize if that's not true. Um, okay, so here's another thing that I thought was really interesting. So I'm like, okay, who's Brandon? Um, Brandon is the ex-husband of Lori's niece Melanie, who has become part of Lori and Chad's group. So my first thought was, how is Melanie a niece to Lori? There's another sister. Okay. In the very beginning, the family says there are 4 children. The mom is the one who says, Alex, what was their names? Alex. Oh, Jesus. I'm sorry.
It's Alex, Adam, Summer,
Yes.
and Lori.
Yeah.
There's a sister named Stacy that for one reason mom never mentions. Stacy. Okay. So sorry. Let me go back. So I wanted to know, how was Melanie all in this? Because they kept saying she's Lori's niece. So I was like, hope to God she's not like Charles on that side of the family. Like, that seems odd. So she had an older sister named Stacy who died mysteriously in 1998 at the age of 31. And that is per court TV.
Whoa.
Um, why the family did not put Stacy in the family tree, especially if Melanie is part of this story. So, like, I don't understand that at all. You know, I don't understand. So, that's another rabbit hole that if you want to go down, you could be like, why would you not talk about Stacy? I mean, I don't know how she died. Again, I guess if I really wanted to, if I looked it up harder, maybe I could. But you know, that's just really weird. The parents are the ones who did not put her in the family tree. And if it weren't for Melanie being part of this story, I wouldn't even know there was a Stacy. But anyway, so sorry. So um, that to me is just like
That's
crazy.
very
Sorry.
pertinent information.
Yes. And that just makes you, and again, that's makes me not sure how much I don't want to say trust because that's not really a good word. How much I think the family is, like it, I don't want to say it doesn't put them in a credible light. It just, they have secrets. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I
Yes.
feel
Yeah.
like they have secrets that they're not even willing to share, even though it's very easy to like, there's a niece. Where does she come from? And so I don't know. I don't know. So just throwing that out there. So after Charles's death, Lori, Tylee, and JJ moved, but they don't tell their family. They don't tell anybody. They don't tell Kay. They don't tell their mom, anybody. And there's very little contact. Um, it doesn't really talk like it doesn't really say like, well, Lori came over for, supper every Sunday night and then all of a sudden she stopped. So I don't really know how super close they were. We know that Alex and her are very close and have been pretty much all their lives. Like, they're definitely, I think they're probably similar in age maybe. And, they definitely were close. But not just up and move and not tell your family at all is pretty, I mean, I think for most people would be pretty weird, just
Especially,
to up and not say anything.
Yeah.
especially after something traumatic like that.
Yes, yes. All right, so here comes the list. So it's discovered. So Colby and his wife. Okay, let me take a step back. Before Charles died, he was reaching out to Colby. He was reaching out to different family members, trying, like, showing them the emails that were between Chad and Lori, and like this is why I say she's crazy. Like trying to show them evidence. And Colby never really looked at it. He didn't want to be part of it, which he's starting his own family, and we get that. I don't want to be involved if my parents were. My parents have been married for 47 years. If they all of a sudden started fighting, I don't want to be seeing emails and all that other stuff too. So once they start going back and looking, because again, she's gone dark. I mean, nobody knows where she is. Charles is dead now. This is where they find out about the light and dark spirits. Okay. And this is where the one lady that we, like you said, even her was like, this is too extreme, disagrees. Chad claims to have the ability to distinguish good and evil spirits. If you are low, you are a zombie and your spirit is in limbo. The goal is to eliminate the zombies to prepare the people for the second coming of Jesus. So I also think it's very interesting that Chad is the one who has this ability to distinguish good and bad spirits. And if you were to look at that list, you would see, in my eyes, people who were interfering in his way. His wife, Tammy, was a bad spirit, was a dark spirit. Charles was a dark spirit. Tylee and JJ were claimed to be dark spirits. And Colby's wife was also a dark spirit on this list. So I got to thinking, that's kind of an interesting list, like what do all those people possibly have in common? Again, this is just my explanation. All those things, all those four people were what was stopping Chad Daybell from having Lori Vallow to himself completely.
Yep.
Because Colby, I mean, he's a child, but he's a grown up. All of Chad Daybell's 5 children are grown ups. They're not in the way. They're not dependent. And I just think it's interesting. And again, that's the reason why I think I call bullshit on a lot of his stuff. I just think it's real interesting that he has the list and he can do all this. And then these are the people that are to have the dark spirits. But anyway, that's just me. Okay, so like I said, Chad is still married to Tammy. He's still married. Then Chad indicates to Lori that Tammy is a level 3 demonic entity named Viola. So we got Ned and we got Viola. So, as you know, evil spirits have to be eradicated. And so she dies. Tammy dies on 10/19/2019. She just doesn't wake up. She passes away in her sleep. And like I said, they had been married 29 years. And so both spouses at this time has been determined to be evil spirits and that they were both dead. And of course, they just buried Tammy because, she died in her sleep. I mean, she was in her 40s, was she in her early 50s? Late 40s?
She wasn't old, yeah.
But again, it wasn't like she was 30 and, people in their late 40s could definitely have, we've seen that unfortunately where I had an uncle that had a massive, he had a fatal heart attack at 49,
Yep.
And so even though it may seem kind of odd, like, she seems so healthy, she was always running and stuff, it wasn't as obvious if maybe she was 28 and that happened. So, okay. So we got that. So now both people are dead. So Chad also, one thing, like I said, they have this small group. He starts pairing people up for the afterlife, okay? And people start getting married and that kind of stuff. Because Chad is telling people how to act because he's a prophet. And he is telling people that Doomsday is July 22nd, 2020.
I thought Doomsday was a character in Superman.
It is.
Oh, okay.
Well, It's also the wording that Chad used, I guess. Doomsday, the end of the world.
But apparently it didn't happen. So that was
No, but
3
it
years
was
ago.
on my birthday. That was so sad that was going to, I guess
You must
I
have
would,
pissed him off.
you know what though? I would be one of those that like, I actually did live a full year. Like I couldn't be, what I would be in 45, 44. I wouldn't have been like 44 in a month. I would have been exactly 44 years old. But anyway, so he's pairing people off. He pairs off Alex with a lady. I can't think of her name. Melanie gets paired off with someone. They get married. Like they all go to Las Vegas and get married and everything. So Charles died in July 2019. November 2019, Kay and Larry Woodcock get involved in this story. And like I said before, Kay and Larry are JJ's legitimate grandparents, and they are constantly in contact with him and talking to him. When Lori and JJ and Tylee all moved, it wasn't just her family. They did not tell Kay and Larry where they were going. So they get involved because they don't know where they are. And they want to talk to and FaceTime JJ. So I love this. I love Kay because she's a sleuth. So she's trying to find out where they could be. She gets on Charles's Amazon page, his Amazon account, and she notices after Charles has died that there has been a delivery to an address in Rexburg, Idaho. And so she calls the police there to do a welfare check. And now, like I said, I think this is where the story really amps up, and then they start looking at previous things, and then you start looking at things in the future. So the police go do a welfare check, and they want to see JJ in order to tell Kay, I seen him, they want to do a welfare check. They just want to see JJ so they can tell Kay he's fine, because they don't know what kind of, they're only getting Kay's story that I haven't talked to him. They don't know what kind of relationship is going on. They just want to set eyes on JJ. Well, Lori won't tell them. Lori won't tell the police where JJ is. First, she lies. I'm sorry, I'm losing my notes. First, she lies and she tells the police that JJ is with her friend in Arizona. Complete, and he's happy. Complete lie. And they're like, okay. And then she's like, oh, I think they're going to go see Frozen this afternoon. Like, she's got a whole story. Oh, I think they're going to go see Frozen. That's why she's not picking up. And the police is like, okay, fine. Well, can you call her and have her call us and tell, whatever. Tell us that, JJ's fine and that's where he is. So, and like I said, she is alluding and they don't like that. They're not allowing Lori to deflect the police. And so the group, all these people, oh Lord, there's so much to take. The first apartment they go to, so when the police get the address and they go do a welfare check, the first place they go to is not her apartment. It's actually Chad Daybell and Alex Cox. Or that's who answers the door.
Yes.
Okay. That's my sister. This is her friend. And so then they direct them to where Lori is. She's in another apartment down the road or, in the same complex. And she's like, oh, yeah, he's with my friend, enjoying life. And so then like the next day, the police come back and everybody's gone. Okay.
Didn't they ask her like how she knew the two that they had just talked to, and she said it was her brother and her brother's friend, but she didn't know him well.
Yes, there was definitely yes.
So
I couldn't remember who had said what, but yes, they were not. And so keep this in mind. This is November 2019. That will come back in a little bit of interesting. That's your brother's friend. Okay, I gotcha. So they all disappear. They all head after the police come by and they want to see JJ and they're going to come back because Lori said He was in Arizona and they were watching Frozen. Um, the group flees and the police start talking to family about the children and they put out a bolo. And so that's where the news starts picking up that there's these two missing children. And then that's when it seems like the reporters and police started looking at who Lori Vallows was and who, and what was kind of going on. And then that's when they start seeing all these, oh, Lori's husband just died. And, uh, she's on this podcast, and Charles, and Chad Daybell's involved in all this other stuff. So they start asking lots and lots of questions. Tammy's body is actually exhumed on 12/11/2019. Okay, because now they're starting to have questions about her. On the very next day, 12/12, Alex, Lori's brother, dies of blood clots in the lungs. Whether that is, I don't know. The mother claims that they do have history of that. I don't really know. I don't know if you can take something to create that situation in your body.
Oh, yeah.
I have no idea. Oh, yes? Yeah. Okay. Well, then I think that's probably what happened. So I wasn't for sure. But what I wonder if it was self-inflicted, because he was very much into all of this. If they had told him by chance, oh, I think you're an evil spirit now. I don't know. Like there again, there's just so many to be a fly on the wall. I don't know how his demise happened. I don't know if he took his own life because maybe, I don't know, or if they told him. I'm sorry, Justin. I know you want to say something. Go ahead.
So his wife seemed to infer that it was Chad and Lori's doing, based off of him telling her the full story. Like, he spilled everything to her. And so basically, based off of what I got from it, he inferred that he feared for his life after things started happening. So, like, the body being exhumed, he felt like his life was in jeopardy because ultimately they were putting together some pieces. So,
well, and so then you have to wonder, do you not really believe that your sister is a superior being? Like, why do you care? In a sense, I mean, like, you're working for the Lord or whatever. I don't understand that part of the story. Like,
but then, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm not extremely religious, but I also went to private school, which was a religious school, and thou shalt not kill.
Right.
So at what point did it say, thou shalt not kill except for the zombies that are coming after you?
Right.
So,
I'm just assuming, and this is a bad thing, but I'm assuming they must have they told Alex his spirit was turning dark, or they were whispering behind. You know what I'm saying? They were saying in their own group because of exactly what you were saying. Alex could really, I'm sure Alex is the one who did most of these killings. Yeah. Obviously, he killed Charles. You'll hear later, more than likely, he was involved with Tylee and JJ. Who knows? He might have done Tammy for all I know. But I'm just saying that, yes, I feel like he was probably a link that they wanted to kind of sew up, or hole. You wouldn't really sew a link, so I don't really know what that is. But he was a loose thread, and possibly could have been a problem. So he died. So to recap, Charles, Tammy, Alex are all dead. So Lori's husband, Chad's wife, Lori's brother are all dead. JJ and Tylee are missing. Chad and Lori leave Idaho. Last time they were seen was November 27th, 2019. Now they are in contempt of court for not telling anybody where JJ and Tylee are, and there's a warrant out for her arrest. So, Come to find out, Lori and Chad got married in Hawaii on November 5th, which is 2 weeks after Tammy died. That item that I was telling you about that Kay looked up on Charles's Amazon account were their wedding rings that she had sent to that website. Um, not sure how long, or not sure when or how long they had been in Hawaii, because obviously they came back to Idaho and then they left again. But they were found in Hawaii January 26th. So it had been at least 2 full whole months, almost 3, when they were given the warrant for her arrest, and they were extradited back to Idaho. Now, the only person with the warrant is Lori, but Chad came back, okay? So this is where episode 3 starts. And again, so pictures of Lori and Chad's wedding get out. They had pictures, and you should see these pictures. I don't know if you get to see some in the documentary. There are no pictures of Tylee or JJ. And there's over 600, which I thought was interesting. It says there are 666 pictures.
For religious people, isn't that the sign of the devil?
Yes, it is. Exactly. I would have taken a picture of the sand or something and make that 667. But whatever. There are none of JJ and Tylee. And these pictures they are very lovingly looking at each other. Please watch the documentary and see this.
It's crazy.
It is completely crazy. So then, Colby has a conversation with his mother after the arrangement. She's in jail, and they're on the phone, and he's begging her to tell them where JJ and Tylee are. And and this is where I said, I'm not for sure about. I truly feel like Chad has brainwashed her. She is talking like she really believes they were evil. What she has done is the best thing for them. They're safe. They're happy. She thinks everything. This is all part of the plan. The obstacles are due to the devil. So, again, you think about Job. You think about things in the Bible. You think about where you're trying to do something good. Well, obviously, when things go wrong, it's the devil trying to stop you because you're doing the Lord's work, or something to that effect. But she has no sympathy. She just doesn't. She doesn't try to comfort Colby. I don't even know what I thought she should be doing, but she just seems very oh, huh? She knows the grand plan, and everybody else is just wait and see kind of thing. What did y'all think?
It's sad because unfortunately this is not the first episode we've done on cults or cult-like, and that's what this is. Let's not mistake it.
No, you're right.
And the sad part is Chad Daybell took advantage of Lori Vallow. I can't speak, and I'm not. By the way, I'm not trying to excuse anything she's done, but she clearly was lost spiritually. She's trying to find where she belongs in life, and he found her and molded her into what he wanted to do her bidding. And again, I get it, but if I was talking to someone about his religious gifts, and the first thing he told me was, I'm going to make the New Jerusalem, and it's going to be in Rexford, Idaho, I'd be like, what? That's weird. Your hometown where you live now, and you don't have to pay to move, but I do. That's interesting. And she's not well by the end of this whole thing. She's not. Her brain has been completely enveloped by this worldview, and Chad Daybell did all of it. All this was very calculated on his behalf. I don't know what his grand scheme was. My guess is greed, because unfortunately, this is almost always what it comes down to. And yeah, she says things. I firmly believe she believes most of the things she says.
Yeah,
I do too.
So my take is a little different. While I think Chad Daybell put the nail in the coffin, so to speak, on her looniness or her believability of everything, I think she was far in deep to what her beliefs were, and it just solidified further once she met Chad. So she was already hearing spirits, she was already talking to angels, she was already in real deep. There's a difference. And if you think back to what Amy said before, she was already special with the spirituality from a young age.
Yeah.
What I took from it was, of all the children, she believed in the word, she believed in the way, she believed in listening to it, and really was the one that kind of paid attention, right?
Yes.
There's a difference between that and talking to spirits and talking to angels and guiding them to do it. I understand, and I'm not judging people. Religion is different than going and listening to a false prophet telling you to murder your kids
Mhm.
or hurt or harm or completely abandon your son. Poor Colby in this, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the one I'm thinking about first before we even cover Tylee and JJ. You're talking about someone who lost his main person in
Mhm.
life long before those two kids went missing. So her she did that to herself, and then she led herself to be stranded and join Chad in this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Chad just saw that she was vulnerable. That's it.
You know what's really interesting when you said Colby lost his dad way before the kids went disappeared, and actually, when we look at the timeline, it really wasn't that long.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, they were discovered as missing, but they had actually, the situation had already happened. I think I may be between y'all in a way because I definitely think her religious beliefs is what uh, enticed Chad to come in with. I mean, part of me is like, does he even really believe anything he's saying? He was married to. You don't hear any of this stuff. I mean, again, he is writing books. I mean, he definitely is, and he's doing conferences. He's on
Yep.
that fringe, but he's been married. He has 5 kids. Like, all of a sudden, all of a sudden, he has someone that is beautiful and is hanging on his every word and thinks he's, beyond fabulous. And all of a sudden, like, all of this starts happening. And I just wonder the other thing, and this is terrible, but his first book, and I cannot bring myself to buy any of this stuff.
I will slap you if you do.
I know. Well, I couldn't. But again, I'm not saying anything, but he's had 2 near death experiences in his life, basically to where he's drowned in a sense and brought back. Um, and after that is when he started. So I'm just going to read you this little caption that was on Amazon, just real quick, about his autobiography, basically called "Living on the Edge of Heaven." So at 17, he had a near death experience while cliff jumping. He crossed into another dimension and realized there was a world beyond this one. A second near death experience in his early 20s was much more in depth. He was hit by a monstrous wave when his body was being tossed around. His spirit was visited by his grandfather, who showed him future events involving his still unborn children. This accident caused the veil that separates mortal life and the spirit world to stay partially open, so he feels as if he has a foot in both worlds. Okay. Now, he's had traumatic brain injury, right? I mean,
Mhm.
basically, I mean, I think that's what they're saying in a sense. He's had near death experiences. He was beaten up by the waves. He had a cliff jumping, a near death experience while cliff jumping. So either he almost drowned or um, there was not oxygen going to the brain. I mean,
If
that's what I'm assuming.
if I remember right, I think they said the cliff jumping incident when he essentially when he broke the surface of the water and went under, I think he ruptured his eardrum and he passed out momentarily,
Okay.
I think.
So again, we don't know everything that the brain can do. So
Right.
what if again, and not saying that I'm just kind of wondering on this on the looking in, did he really did he really talk to the spirit world, or was it just something that was going on in his brain, lack of oxygen? And so this is something that he's taken on. He was very close to his grandfather. Not surprising, that's who he'd be thinking of. I don't know. Like I said, there are so many different avenues that you could think of. Again, I'm not trying to take away the fact that he is got one foot in and one foot out of the spirit world. I don't know, wasn't there, so I can't really say. But I think the fact that he's had these two traumatic instances kind of close together, if he's 17 and early 20s, I mean, you're not looking at too much time. Um, that's just that would be an interesting part to know. But anyway, I digress. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. Y'all got to reel me in because, like I
No,
said,
it's,
this
No,
is
it's
it's
good.
so
It's
good.
good conversation.
And
this,
I also want to bring up too. I know the cliff diving one. This is the case. I don't know about the second one. That's a new one. But I believe the cliff diving incident. He was the only one that was there. So there's no one that can even confirm the story. And people have questioned whether or not it happened.
mm, interesting. Interesting. Um, again, maybe it did happen in his brain.
Sure.
I have who knows. I mean, like I said, he also grew up to be. He was again, from what I could gather, he grew up in the church or this Latter Day Saint church. He did missions. That's how he met Tammy.
Yep.
And so um, he was very much knew this history. He knew about Joseph Smith. Um, I don't know if you're not if you're just a normal person, wouldn't it be cool to be able to say, "Hey, I'm a prophet." But anyway, because I had these experiences. Who knows? Like I said, that was just a shouldn't even said that. But anyway, I'm like, "Woo." um, okay. So like I said, Lori sounds like she's been brainwashed. She believes that all of this is part of the grand plan. All these obstacles are due to the devil and the evil spirits are trying to interrupt Chad and Lori and their mission. Okay. She has no sympathy in her voice for Colby at all and how he feels and how all this is going on. All she keeps saying is that the children are fine and they are in a safe place. They're in a safe place. Um, so she's sitting in jail. The police are still doing their due diligence. June 9th, 2020, the police are at the Daybell residence because they have looked at cell phone data and doing some other police work, and they've on Alex's phone. Okay, and maybe they heard the stories. I don't know when Alex's wife was interviewed with the police and that kind of stuff, but um, they are examining Alex's phone, and they notice there are times that he spent extreme amounts of time on the day in the Daybell yard, in Chad Daybell's yard. So it is possible that maybe people are starting to talk. They find out that Alex is the one who killed Charles Vallow. If the wife is telling him these things, the wife could be talking to the police and saying, you know, um, he had beaten up somebody. I think Joe Ryan, back who is the third husband.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Alex beat him up and actually got an assault charge
Mm.
because he does this weird comedy bit again.
Oh, that's yes, because he found out he was a convicted sex offender.
Or that's what Lori said, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he was or not, honestly. But yes, you know what? I think Lori told him that. I don't think he is.
It wouldn't stun me if that was
Right.
the case.
So yes, because like I said, he did that really weird like stand up. Like, have you ever done something that you thought was right but got a felony or something? But
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So maybe they're finding out that Alex is kind of the heavy in all this. So I don't know. So they're examining his phone, and they find that he has spent extreme amount of times in different parts of the yard. Okay. They start digging up the yard. Okay. Chad is there. They have certain places marked off, and Chad claims they have pet cemeteries. And also, I just want to say, Chad Daybell's 5 children, they all think he's innocent. Okay, just so you know. Yes, every one of them think he's innocent. Um, I guess maybe you would if that's your dad. I don't know.
Sure.
You'd hope, right?
Right. I hope my dad doesn't put me. Dad, don't put me in this situation.
Yeah.
No. But so this is the phone call. Okay, I wrote it down. So the phone call on the day the police are out looking in Chad Daybell's yard. It really just wants me to. I mean, this is where I could physically punch Chad Daybell.
Hold on. Say it correctly. What kind of punch?
A throat punch. I would totally throat punch him.
Exactly.
So she says, hello, babe. He's like, hello. She says, are you okay? He says, no. He tells her that the police are searching his property for Tylee and JJ. Lori says to Chad, what can I do for you? I could probably throat punch her too.
Yes, absolutely.
Should I try to call you later? Like, but again, that sheer devotion, like that's another reason that I'm like, she is completely brainwashed by him. Like, he has taken that little bit of her spiritual sensitivity and just absolutely ran with it. Plus, too, again, I'm not of the Latter-day Saints. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure that if you were spiritually sensitive and you had someone telling you of your religion that you were going to help bring about the New Jerusalem, I mean, maybe she looks at that as an honor. Like, maybe that's part of the reason why she's allowed to be brainwashed. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Does that make any sense? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where am I? Oh, so this is what makes me mad. He acts like an absolute turd, I guess. I don't even know what word I want to say.
Love it.
But he acts like, oh, no, I'm not okay. Like, where's this big bad prophet? You know what I'm saying? Like, he acts like a candy ass right now. And that is what makes me so mad. Does he not?
He does.
Does he not?
A Rudy Poo candy ass.
And
Exactly.
we should also make this distinction. I believe while these phone calls are going on, correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe Lori's already in prison.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why they were all recorded.
Yeah.
That's the joy of it.
Yes, she is in jail for contempt of court because she will not tell them where JJ and Tylee are.
And the funnier part is they tell them all phone conversations are recorded.
Exactly.
Hey, let me get you on the phone and talk to you.
Right. What can I do for you?
Anything you want to spill while we're on the call? What's on your mind?
Yeah.
Well, actually.
No. Yeah. It's like, no, I'm not okay. They're looking at my property. Oh my God.
Candy ass. That's
He is.
phenomenal.
He is. So obviously they find human remains on the property. And the autopsy shows that they are Tylee and JJ. Now, this is something that and it's almost like I got to the point in my notes where like I just couldn't take it anymore. I just like da 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 da. This is it. Like you're just taking all of this in. Tylee's body was dismembered and she was burned. They
Mhm.
did find JJ wrapped up in his. I mean, he was like duct tape completely.
Mhm.
Now, I don't want to think about it. I'm hoping that he was given some medicine and fell asleep and drifted off.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can hope. When you hear that someone is duct taped, I don't want to think of them not struggling to breathe
Right.
and being buried. So I just, sorry, go ahead. No.
I just when watching it, and so I had to watch it twice,
hmm
just so I could keep up with notes because we were going to try to do this earlier this year. The sickening thing is you have two kids who had to know that their family member was doing this to them. Tylee, who was old enough to know what was going on, JJ, who probably didn't, and I hope for JJ's sake, like you said, it was easy and not painless, or it was painless, right?
Right,
And
right.
so ultimately, at the end of the day, it's disgusting how this happened in general, but to know that a family member was involved
hmm
planning it, and then a family member doing it is just disgusting.
They interviewed, I believe it was either a family friend or the nanny or something like that, and they said they had seen JJ the night before,
hmm
and he was, it was nighttime, but it was relatively early in the night, and he was already lethargic and kind of non-responsive then. So that she's wondering,
Alex was carrying them in,
yeah,
right?
if they'd already started the process by that point.
Yes.
But this part's why I've only watched it once, and I can't really watch it again because if you know me, which you two obviously do, my son Jack is autistic, and he'll be 7 years old in December. So he's about, Jay's age when all this happens. Jack can't talk. He's trying to now, but he can't yet. And I've had panic attacks. Woke myself up at night about, essentially Jack being alone and he can't express himself. He doesn't know what to do. And it's horrifying. So when I think about that, instead of JJ's face, I see Jack's. And it's like but I will also say, so this isn't all sad, that Jack is a beautiful child. He loves to have fun, like when I tell people he's autistic, they're like, oh, I'm like, don't feel bad. He's great. And
Right.
what he's done to change me for the better is off the charts. My patience is through the roof. I don't ever get angry anymore. It's really very difficult. But that's the worst part to me is they took this child and JJ, this child who can't defend himself. He can't tell anyone. And in that state, the only thing he knows is safe is you.
hmm hmm
And you betrayed that.
Right.
And that's unforgivable.
The messed up thing is so Colby is old enough to take care of both of those kids.
Yes.
He loved both of those kids. If they didn't want those kids, they could have easily said, Colby, we're going to go live our lives the way we want to. We're going to go live the way we've been called, right? And basically, we'd love you to take care of Tylee and JJ. And based off of what I was able to see in the documentary, I think Colby would have stepped up.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
So, but yet they were selfish and greedy, and definitely took the lives of those kids way too soon.
Yes, everything that you all have said. Um, they feel that Tylee and JJ were actually killed at the end of September. You know, that the last photo or the last sighting of Tylee was at Yellowstone National Park.
Yep.
And then the last picture of JJ, because he was in the pajamas when they found him, was they were doing a podcast. You were right. It was a friend. It was her and her boyfriend were there. I can't remember their names. It might have been Melanie. It might have been the woman who um, that was in Arizona. You know that she had said originally. Was it her? The woman who they originally said, "Oh yeah, JJ's with her in Arizona." It might have been her and her boyfriend. Um, but I don't remember. But anyway, because like I said, it's just um, they were probably and like you said, I feel for Tylee. I can only imagine being a teenager and seeing your mom like having to be part of this. Number one, I mean, obviously her mother is bringing her into a lot of adult situations, and um, you know, being a teenager is hard anyway. You know, I mean, you've got all kinds of hormones and emotions and different things going on. Having your mother, probably someone that you love, not being able to talk to your brother, you know, like just not being able to tell him what's going on. Just, I can only imagine what was being said to Tylee to, to, um, I don't want to say keep her in this. Did she know it was getting ready to be her? Like, did she always worry about that? That Chad would say, "Oh gosh, it's Viola again," and you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
and and, and how easily now again, Lori thinks that, and she tells, let's see, where does it go? She tells Colby, like when they find the kids, like she is very much that she is preparing Earth for the second coming. Like she has done nothing wrong. People don't understand. You will see. Like she is still very, very staunch in that belief. She truly thinks she has done well by her children by freeing their spirit. Like she truly, by freeing their bodies or their souls or whatever, because Chad has indicated they were zombies. It's like putting them out of their misery, you know? I just, but I'm like you, like, uh, I guess I would have to physically see a zombie of my child before I would do, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? To
Well,
really be,
and
I don't even know.
and some teenagers act like zombies. So it's like, you know, how did he describe what a zombie is? Or does it look like? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, really,
He-
what did he do to convince her? And that's really where I'm just questioning it.
Yes, and again, I wonder about that manipulation, like, and also, and I think I probably, why can't we start somewhere else? Like, why do we got to start with our family? If we're here to clean the whole world, the whole earth has to be prepared for the second coming. Surely to God, there's some other dark spirits that we could, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
I
Yes.
don't understand why. Like I said, I feel like it goes back to he wanted Lori completely to himself.
Yep.
And he did not want, um, you know, there's no telling. Did Tylee? How did she feel about him? You know what I'm saying? Did JJ like him? I don't. You know, you don't know any dynamics of what that was all like in their house when they were all together, and what were they just ignoring them? Because again, that's one of the other things that they say throughout this this series. Tylee was a second mom to JJ. They were very, very close. And so, were they up in their rooms and just trying to ignore what was going on downstairs with the podcast? I mean, there's no telling. Just
Yeah.
absolutely no
Yeah.
telling. Oh, so exhausting. So Lori and Chad are both indicted for the murders of JJ and Tylee. Lori Daybell's autopsy shows that she was strangled. And so
Oh,
they.
hold on.
Oh,
You
I'm
mean
sorry.
Tammy Daybells, right?
I was gonna say what? What
I was
happened?
like,
Oh,
I
who
was like,
did I say? Chad?
you
said
said
Lori.
Lori.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry. Yes.
Breaking news.
I was like, whoa, we got a lot more to cover. There's going to be
Woo-hoo.
another hour of this show.
So sorry. I know. And I wrote it right. Tammy Daybell's autopsy shows she was strangled. So there are murder charges added to Lori and Chad for that. They are going to have separate trials. Lori's already had her trial.
Yep.
And she was found guilty, but her sentences is not until like next week or so. So she has not been sentenced yet. Chad's is not supposed to start until April. So basically, this is what's really interesting. I think Chad is going to sing like a canary. I think
Yes. Are you
Chad
kidding
is,
me?
yes, I think he is going to be the one saying it was all Lori. Her trial's already happened. She ain't said nothing. Y'all don't understand. The second coming is, whatever. And I think that's what's going to be again. He's so screwed in jail. Is all I'm
Yeah.
going to say. Literally, figuratively, whatever. Um, so then she will also go back. So after she's sentenced, they are going to try her for Charles Vallow's death. So she will be extradited to Arizona.
For her planning of that, yes.
Yes, for her
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
her planning or whatever. And it just, you can see where, like, I didn't even, I have 5 pages of notes and I left out so much. You all have been able, so great of adding pieces, but there is so much to take
The one
in.
thing that I did want to point out is so her family originally, when the kids went missing,
Oh my God, yes.
they defended Lori because they were like, Lori would never hurt these kids, right? And so as more and more came out about Lori, the mother and the sister were like, we apologize. We defended her and we just did not know what she was getting herself into. So I know that the family is definitely regretting not helping when they were. I know Colby was definitely an advocate for his brother and sister as much as he could. But definitely as close as you are to family, you definitely want to make sure that you're looking at all sides because sometimes you are in deep when it is family. Just making sure that you're looking at all sides and all angles. So,
and you're right, because again, I mean, they were, I don't want to say they were refusing. That family was refusing to see what Lori was becoming and going and doing because Charles Vallow was trying to tell them that she has really become extreme. Like, this is what's going on. And so, you know, I don't, I think, I mean, I understand you want to, I feel like as a family, you grow up with people, you're their mother. I would be wholeheartedly defending Olivia or Aaron,
Yes.
my children. Um, but they
but
knew some things were off.
you would also notice the changes in your children, right? You would notice distancing, right? You
I
would
am,
notice other
yeah,
things.
I'm one of those moms. I don't care. I mean, I do. You
And
ask Olivia.
I'm not calling you a helicopter parent by
No,
any
no, no.
means.
I know.
But even if you're not a helicopter parent or just just an active parent in your kid's life, you will notice some changes throughout and be able to say, "Hey, something's not right here," right? And start questioning them on it. And then be able to have those conversations of saying, "Hey, let's talk. Let's have an open conversation. What's going on? What can I do to help?" Right?
Yes.
Obviously not to the involvement of what Lori would have wanted help with, but
Right.
ultimately, at the end of the day, just be able to listen. Maybe Adam would have been able to get through to his parents to where that intervention could have happened. Look at how many lives could have been saved if Adam could have had those interventions. And I'm not
Exactly.
blaming Adam because
No.
he was up against a lot, right? So
Right. And I think you're right. I think there's probably a lot of people in this story that are wishing they could do things a little different. I mean, like you said, uh, Kay might have been thinking, well, if the day I didn't hear, like she was really the advocate. She was the person who really propelled all of this because they were saying Tylee went to college. Like they were just saying whatever they wanted to explain where why people weren't here, you know?
Yeah.
And but I just I get it. But like I said, I talk to Olivia every day. And I know that not everybody does that.
Right.
But if she up and disappeared, like and didn't want me to know, that's not happening. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's just I mean, I don't know. I
Just
just
think if
sorry.
Kay didn't use her investigative skills, this probably would have still gone on. There was no care for those kids.
No.
They were
Yeah,
not looking in. They did what they needed to do. They did their due diligence. They knocked on the door. They asked the question. They
exactly.
hadn't heard back the next day. I don't know if they would have done anything if Kay hadn't been an advocate.
Right.
So,
Oh no. Well, and the other thing, uh, they told um they told JJ's school that they were going to homeschool.
mhm,
So again, they're covering all those bases of, well, she pulled them out of school and this. But you're right. If Kay hadn't been diligent looking for him, wanting to know, and I'm sure Charles was probably telling her she's crazy, sis, or whatever.
yeah,
And then everything kind of stopped after he died. They disappeared, and she didn't know where he was, and wanted to make sure he was getting the treatment that he needed. And I just, I mean, I'm sure the therapies and different things like that. That's the reason why Kay was the beneficiary.
yep, yep.
Charles wanted to make sure that
JJ was taken care of. Yep,
JJ was taken care of, especially when Lori started obviously not care. Not I don't want to say caring. Her her focus was not the kids, kind of thing. You know. So, um, like I said, I watched a lot of court TV live. Obviously is following closely. Multiple podcasts are being done. Adam and his uncle, which would be um, I don't know which uncle. I think it's the dad's brother, but they've actually started a podcast as a way of healing and of
Yes.
just talking about things. And I did not listen. Um, I just don't know if I can listen anymore of this. Just like you said, I'm glad it's healing for them. Um, I have so many questions that can not be answered because it was really between Lori and Chad and like what they were saying and what they were going through. Um, I'm also at the point that I'm kind of like I'm not giving Lori or Chad Daybell any more of my time.
Yes.
Like they just um I just don't understand and I never will. I've never been that fanatic about religion, I guess. But I'm just in a weird way, and I say this, JJ and Tylee are in a better place. Obviously, I would feel they should be here, but you know, away from those people, away from their mother and Chad Daybell. Um, I I don't even know what else to say.
I get
So,
you. So I do have a question before we kind of close it out with TJ. When you were watching Court TV and seeing it, what was her reaction? Was there any remorse in her eyes or any looks of remorse?
one thing that I've really noticed, and I hate to be, I mean, she does not look well. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I mean, I don't expect you to look well in prison, and nor should you. You know what I mean? But like a shell, I don't know. Like it's all, but again, she is not acting like yet anyway. She is still of the mindset that the end is coming and this is my mission and I have to stand firm just like Job, just like Abraham did with Isaac. I mean, you're going to have all these trials and this is what God wants and you're going to have to you know be strong and that kind of stuff during all this. That's what she still comes across as.
Yeah.
I mean, like she
Mm.
still comes across as not even defiant, as I truly believe she thinks this is her destiny. It's not a defiant like, F you, I ain't telling you nothing. It's more of a, like I said, this is my destiny and this is, you know, Jesus, and this is a weird thing to say, but Jesus knew he had to die. He knew he had to be nailed to the cross. Even it still hurt. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, it was still a very painful experience. I feel like that's what she thinks is going on. Him, I don't even care.
Yeah.
I hope he makes a good boyfriend. That's all.
Oh,
In
dang.
prison.
All right. And on that note, like I said,
Take that out. That's terrible. I should have said that.
you are good.
Oh.
TJ, take us home.
Sorry.
Tell us what. Actually, I actually am the next episode, and I do know who I'm doing. Before I let you take us deeper into the send off,
Okay.
but I will be doing the Kehoe brothers. So these are a murdering group of brothers. So yes, I can't wait to tell you a little bit more about them.
So my next two topics, the next one will be the British serial killer Dennis Nielsen, who again, how he got caught is gross, and we're going to talk about it. He lived in an apartment. I'll leave it at that. And then the one after that is going to be the Green River killer, Gary Ridgway, who probably is the most prolific serial killer in North American history, but no one ever talks about him. And I don't really know why. And we're going to talk about him. So,
Yeah.
And it was recent.
Yeah.
So any the 2-hour episode here, this is the first for us. Any parting words before we there's Mexican food upstairs waiting for me. So yeah.
Well, I won't hold you any further, but I will just say thank you to our guest,
Yes.
Amy, and happy birthday again.
Yes.
So
Thank you very much. So appreciate you all having me on. This, like I said, something I've followed, and it's just truth is stranger than fiction, and I
Yes.
think that's another reason why some things, and also what humans can do to each other is another one of those things that you just can't comprehend, and we try to by following things like this and trying to make things rational. Even me talking like she has to believe this is what,
Yeah.
I really do think that's what's going on in her head. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, but thank you. I'm sorry. I made it 2 hours.
No, this is a great episode.
yeah.
It is, like I said, there's stuff we probably didn't talk about, didn't even touch on, because you just can't in all of this. But I hope you have a good evening, and thanks again.
TJ, take us home.
We'll see you next time.
The views expressed on this podcast are ours alone and do not reflect the views of our employers.
Evolution of evil.
I'd have the sleeping pill mixture already prepared. Person would drink it, fall asleep. That's when they would be strangled.
Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
Evil is not spurned. Evil is thought of as a spirit that needs help.
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.